But in this book, The Gifts of Imperfection, she writes, and she's talking about the Leonard Cohen song, The Anthem, or what many of us call Alleluia. And she says, it serves as a reminder to me that when I get to that place where I am trying to control everything and make it perfect, the line says, there is a crack in everything, and that's how the light gets in. So many of us are running around spackling all the cracks, trying to make everything look just right, Brown says. And this line helps me to remember the beauty in the cracks. It reminds me that our imperfections are not inadequacies, but they are reminders that we are all in this together. We are imperfectly together. Will you pray with me, please? God, I ask that you just give me your guidance, your wisdom, and your words to speak about your love and your desire for us to follow you. Amen. Amen. Inside of us is all a pull to regret. There's a tug at each of us toward fear. But also inside of each and every one of us, we are wired for a desire for hope. Because as a child of God, God has planted hope inside of each and every one of you. And so no matter how fear, shame, regret, all pulls at you, God desires to hold you strong with his hope. Today we conclude this series on Let Hope In. And it's been all about letting God's hope in. Letting God's hope into our hearts and our minds and our souls and our being. And we've talked about moving past our past and leaving our regrets behind. We've talked about the fact that we don't need to worry about pleasing God, but instead we just need to be trusting God. And we've talked about the fact that we need to be okay with sometimes life is just not okay. Today we'll finish it up and we'll look at what does it look like to live together in grace. No one lives on this earth without being hurt in some way. Hurt or wounded or betrayed or offended and even abused. Luke 17:1 says that Jesus said to his disciples, things that cause people to stumble are bound to come. And all of those things cause us to stumble and to question, to wonder what our purpose is and where is God in all of this. But no matter what situations that we face, it is likely that the stories about relationships, are the things that frame our lives. You know, we can have problems with money, we can have problems with health, but when you have problems with a relationship, that is when we really struggle in life. And I'm sure that each and every one of us have a story about a relational failure. And hopefully in some of these stories, we have stories of how we recovered from the impact. Sadly, many of us walk through life with those hurts in our heart, and we haven't recovered from them. And so what happens is we carry them. There's an old saying that says, hurt people hurt. That if you've been hurt, it is likely that you will pass on that hurt. But there is a God saying that says, free people, free. And so today we need to begin to consider how we can be free. Free from our hurts from our relationships that have gone wrong, even those relationships where we don't even know where to begin. To know that God offers us freedom. When we're walking in freedom, we're also walking in a knowing that we have been forgiven. Knowing that not because of anything that we can do for ourselves, but only because of Jesus Christ, that we are forgiven, and therefore we can forgive. We can display grace to others who are living in bitterness or in shame by loving them and serving them. We can pass on the freedom that Jesus gives us through the gift of grace by passing on that freedom rather than passing on pain. Each person's story, each of the stories of your lives are a story that will touch someone else. If you are willing to tell that story from your heart, authentically. It is when we can face the reality of our brokenness, our failures, the moments in which we forgot who we are and who we were created to be. It is in those moments of failure that we will best be able to connect with others and connect with God. You know, the funny thing is that people don't need God because they're whole and got their act together. But instead, we find God, or maybe it's better said that God finds us because of our cracks, because of our brokenness. As I processed through that this week, I really thought about the fact that I am a cracked vessel. Now, I've said, well, my husband sometimes says I'm a cracked pot, but yeah. You know, like Peter, I want to be strong, and I want to be really strong for God, and I want to be able to do what is best, and I want to be that leader that I believe God has created me to be. I think that's sometimes why Peter annoys me so much in the gospel, because he reminds me so much of myself. On that last night, that night in which Jesus would be arrested and tortured, and then in the morning put to death. On that last night, as they gathered together, Peter asked Jesus, "Master, just where are you going?" And Jesus answered, "You can't now follow me where I'm going." "Master," said Peter, "why can't I follow you now? I'll lay down my life for you." And Jesus answered, "Really? You'll lay down your life for me? The truth is that before the rooster crows, you will deny me 3 times. Like so many others, including myself, Peter wants his dedication to Jesus to be exemplary. However, this perfectionism isn't about striving to be his best, or it's not an act of self-improvement, but instead, Peter is trying to earn the approval of Jesus. He so desires to be accepted in his community as well as in that small group that is gathered together. Peter so wanted to be perfect, to be the righteous one, to be the one that could walk to death with Jesus. But in the end, he failed. I know myself, I try so hard to be perfect. I don't want to let people down. I don't want to let God down. And this makes me a prisoner of my perfection. And I believe many Christians fall into that same category. We want so hard to do good. And so when our cracks are revealed, we are so discouraged. The good thing is that Peter's denial is not the end of the story. His failure to be perfect isn't how his life closes out. You see, what happens is too many of us are unwilling or unable to allow ourselves to fail. And so when we deny Christ, like Peter, but like another one of Jesus' disciples, like Judas, we can't accept forgiveness. Too many of us are like Judas. When we fail, we are unable to open ourselves up to God's forgiveness, and therefore we block out the hope that we need so desperately. However, Peter made himself vulnerable. And because he made himself vulnerable to Jesus, that vulnerability allowed the light of hope to shine through his cracks of imperfection. If we buy into the lie that Christians need to be perfect, if we start desperately trying to patch all the cracks in our lives, then others will only see the lie that Christians are perfect. Instead, what we need to do is leave the cracks alone and know that sometimes that light that shines through the cracks will not just illuminate light in our life, but it will illuminate hope in others. If I patch up my cracks and you patch up yours, we will never find each other, and we will remain in darkness. And I know for sure that that is not God's plan for us.